This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
I, RP Bhardwaj, Convener of NAGAR KESHAV City Study Circle, welcome all the participants in today's seminar. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, Virtual CFO. It must be a new term for most of us, but such type of terms have gained importance during this COVID scenario. Our guest speaker for today's session is CA Ramya. The speaker has already joined us. I welcome you, ma'am, in this seminar on behalf of our study circle.
Thank
A
you,
brief
sir.
profile of the speaker. Ramya is a chartered accountant by profession. Her core competency of area of expertise is indirect taxation, specializing in all aspects of goods and services, GST. She is an eminent speaker who has addressed 50+ seminars and webinars on GST in various associations. She is known for her instructive presentation. Some of the states where she has addressed tax professions including Tamil Nadu, Telangana and Kerala. She carries a blend of industrial and professional knowledge with expertise in financial technology sector. Currently, she is associated with Open Financial Technologies Venture headquartered in Bangalore. I welcome CA Ramya to start her deliberation. It is over to the speaker. Kindly start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhardwaj, for introducing me. And also, before I begin my deliberation, I'd like to know whether everyone is actually healthy, everyone is safe during these times. This has been really difficult time for all of us, but we have to make sure that we follow the protocols as to like wearing masks and sanitizing our hands frequently, so that we all together fight against corona. I really hope there comes a time when actually I needn't start my deliberation with asking whether my audience is actually healthy or not. But for this, I think we all have to work together to stop the spread and stop even the third wave or anything coming up. So with that, I'll also share my screen now. Yeah, I hope it is visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. So just like Bhardwaj also said that virtual CFO is something that has, something new that has come up especially during these times after the pandemic. So over the last few years also we have seen so many changes, right? So especially after the pandemic, so many changes that we have seen. So starting my deliberation with this one quote, which has become my favorite, which says, change before you have to. Now what has happened after pandemic is that we are being forced to change, forced to live in a different environment, right? So one simple example is seminars. Before even 2.5, 3 years also, we wouldn't have even thought about webinars like these, right? So if it's CP events, then we usually go to a seminar, go to a particular place and attend it physically. But now that has become impossible for us, right? That has reduced drastically, right? So and we are forced to actually change from seminar to webinar. So that was quite a big change for all of us. So same way, so many changes are happening. If you see, so many new startups are coming up, so many new MSMEs are coming up, new ideas day in day out, so many technology driven companies. Now MSMEs, they even, if you see the service sector, they hold up to 25% of the service GDP is contributed by MSMEs. So MSMEs and startups, now they are like the backbone of our economy. So, and as chartered accountants, it is also our responsibility to make sure that we help drive the economy through these MSMEs and startups. And one way that we can help contribute is virtual CFO. So we'll see what virtual CFO is and how we can actually help them with that. So this is the agenda for today. First, we'll see what is virtual CFO, why is it needed, importance of virtual CFO, why there is need of a virtual CFO for a company, and services provided by a virtual CFO. There are lots of services that a virtual CFO provides. We'll go in detail as to what a virtual CFO will provide. Then forms, what are the forms in which you can provide these services? Then why CAs are the best fit as virtual CFOs? And lastly, how you can transform your practice transform your current practice to a virtual CFO practice. Okay. Apart from these, there are a couple of case studies also. So if time permits, I will be including that. So just like even Bhardwaj, he's told in the starting that this will be an interactive session, right? So if any of you have attended my previous deliberations, you know that I keep it very interactive. That way it will be interesting for both the audience as well as me. So please use the chat box. You can ask me doubts anytime. So if it's a simple doubt, I can take it up during the deliberation itself, or else we can have a separate Q&A session towards the end for 10-15 minutes. So, also while I'm deliberating, I'll be asking questions to the audience also to see whether they are attentive. So to make sure that all of you are actually not sleeping away. So, and it's also a very, very interesting topic. So I hope this actually captures your attention today. So let me just see if I can get the chat box here. Yes. Just a minute. So first of all, what is virtual CFO? Right. So virtual CFO, in a simple terms, it means outsourcing of the entire CFO function of a company is virtual CFO. When you outsource the CFO function to a third party, for example, to a practicing chartered accountant, so that is called virtual CFO. Right. So instead of having a CFO as an employee, a full-time employee in your company, you hire someone else to do it as a third party on a professional service basis. That is called virtual CFO. Next, it is majorly geared towards MSMEs and startups. So like I told you, MSMEs and startups are a very important part of the society, of the economy. And MSMEs and startups, especially in the starting, they will be looking to reduce their costs. They might not have the bandwidth to hire a full-time CFO, full-time employee CFO for themselves, but they would also require the expertise of a CFO. And how can they actually bridge this gap? They can bridge this gap by having virtual CFOs with them, not a full-time CFO, but actually entering into a contract with another third-party practicing CA who will act as a virtual CFO for them. And it's also called part-time CFO or shared CFO services. And technology plays a major role because virtual CFO services can be provided without any geographical constraints. So technology part, I will keep on repeating over and over again over the entire deliberation because that's how important it is. Right? If you are a virtual CFO, if you want to become a virtual CFO, you have to start adapting technology on a day-to-day basis in your office. Even from the smallest of the things, you can start adapting new technologies. You may even start trying out new practice management softwares, for example. So like this, you have to be very tech savvy in order to be a virtual CFO, because in the word itself it's there, right? Virtual CFO. So you have to be able to provide service to your clients from your office, from any remote location. Right now that there may come a time when all of us have to again work from home also, we never know. So in that time, these kind of things adapting the right kind of technology so that all your teammates actually collaborate and work together so that there is no communication gap, right? In order to make sure that the proper service is going to your clients, you have to adapt the right kind of technology for your firm. And one more important thing, remember, virtual CFO is not limited to only accounts and taxation. It has everything under it. What all it has, right from strategy formation, and then policy formulation, and then you have in case of mergers, acquisitions, everything, even that is included. Even HR part is also included in virtual CFO. Right? It is not only accounts and tax anymore. So now if you are a virtual CFO as a chartered accountant, you are no more just an accounts and a taxation person. You are much more than that. You're managing the entire organization. That's how it is, right? So now one question to the audience. What do you think is the difference between a normal CFO and a virtual CFO? A normal individual CFO and a virtual CFO. Okay, I'm not able to see the chat. I want the audience to be interactive. Please put in your thoughts as to what do you think is the difference between a virtual CFO and a normal CFO. Okay. So yeah, virtual CFO may handle multiple assignments simultaneously, correct. Also, one more thing, virtual CFO is an employment. So some people were still confused in my earlier deliberation also in the other branches of ICA which I took. Virtual CFO is not an employee of the company. First of all, you have to remember that. So it is a separate assignment taken over by a practicing CA. You can compare it to any other consultancy assignment that you take. So if you take a consultancy assignment, it's not like you're an employee, right? It's just a normal service that you're doing. Same way, virtual CFO is also a service, kind of like a consultancy service you're taking up. It is not an employment. So that is one big difference. Okay. So that is just for clarification. And why virtual CFO is needed? One main reason is reasonable cost. So startups and MSMEs, they would want to reduce their fixed cost, especially in the starting when they are growing in the growing stage. But they would also require the experience and the skills of a CFO. And how can they do that? They can do it through virtual CFO. They can get a virtual CFO at an affordable price for them, and also get the experience that they need to grow their company. So that's why they would prefer a virtual CFO. And more skills and experience. Coming back to the main difference between virtual CFO and CFO. So CFO, an employee is just one person, right? But virtual CFO is an entire team. How it's an entire team? Because your firm itself will become a virtual CFO. Whoever works for that assignment, the entire team, let them be articles, let them be managers. Everyone will be actually virtual CFO. Right? Because they'll be providing the service together. So, and because there are many people in that team, each person will have different kind of experience, different kind of expertise, and that will help provide a better virtual CFO service to your client. Someone asking any doubt? So next, why virtual CFO is needed is no geographical limitations. So as of now, your clients are based on the state that you live in, or the city that you live in, right? If you are in Delhi, then most of your clients will be in the NCR region. If you're in Mumbai, then most of them will be in Mumbai or Pune maximum. Or if you're in Bangalore, then if your practice is in Bangalore, so it's in and around Bangalore only your clients will be there. But in virtual CFO, that's not the case. Right? If you have the right kind of technology with you, then you can provide service to anyone from anywhere in the country. Sometimes even outside the country, you can even provide your virtual CFO services, right? So if you adopt the right kind of technology, you can provide services from anywhere. Right now, anyway, geographical backgrounds are not there for us, right? So that makes virtual CFO even more an attractive option, especially for startups. Being in Delhi, you can provide virtual CFO service to a startup in Bangalore, maybe even that is also possible with virtual CFO, right? Independence and integrity. So a virtual CFO being an outside person, being a third party to the company, he or she will have a independent view of whatever is happening in the company, right? Also, as chartered accountants, what we are taught first is independence and integrity, right? So we have that in our blood. So that makes the consultancy that we provide even better. Next, flexibility. So you can decide on the time, you can decide on how much you want to charge the client also, depending on the agreement that you're entering. So sometimes you might charge them on hourly basis, sometimes you might charge them on fixed basis, sometimes a hybrid, fixed plus hourly basis also. So this kind of flexibility is available for the company to pay the amount to a virtual CFO. But for a normal CFO, they have to compulsorily pay. It's a fixed cost for them every month. Okay? So this flexibility is there. These are the reasons why a company, a startup, or an MSME would prefer a virtual CFO. Next, how does virtual CFO services differ from internal audit? So this was also one question which I've received a lot. So can anyone tell me one or two ways in which virtual CFO services is different from internal audit? How is it different? I really appreciate if the audience is actually interactive, and whatever answer, it might be right or wrong, you can just put that in the chat.
How does virtual CFO service differ from internal audit?
Any answers? I hope this session will be very interactive. I want to make it interactive, is why I brought up questions also in this.
Members are requested to kindly make it interactive and write their comments in the chat box, please.
Yeah. Because this is a very new and upcoming career option for a lot of chartered accountants. So this will be very interesting if you make it interactive. Okay, fine. So first of all, the CA who provides the virtual CFO services is actually the auditee and not the auditor. Major difference. This is only the major difference. So once you're a virtual CFO of a particular company, you become like a part of the company. We'll also see that one of the services that a virtual CFO provides is closure of audits, right? So he or she, as a virtual CFO, represents as part of the company and helps in closure of statutory audits or internal audits or whatever. So he's actually the auditee and not the auditor. So that's the main difference between virtual CFO services and internal audit. And the same thing, virtual CFO is part of the company's team, and one of the functions is to close the audits. And one more important thing, as auditor, what we do, we go and check all the control systems and everything in the organization, in the company, in our clients, and then we point out what all improvements has to be made, or what all is going wrong. So we put that in the report that these problems are happening in your company. There is some redundancy in the purchase team, and the stock taking is not proper or something, we just give that in the report and give it to the management, right? But and then we forget about that. But then what happens in virtual CFO services? You not only find out what all problems are there, you not only find out the loopholes, but you also do the execution. You have to also find out how you can improve the systems of your client. You found out that something is wrong. How will you fix it? You have to fix that also. So as an auditor, we usually don't go into that, right? We don't care about what the client, whether they actually have taken that advice from us or not. But in this case, we have to ensure that the loopholes are fixed. So that is another difference in virtual CFO and internal audits, and takes part in management of the company. So a virtual CFO has to even attend board meetings. I mean, it's not compulsory, but usually when they call a CFO, usually they call CFOs, right, to board meetings. So same way, the board meeting, they might even call the virtual CFO to come and attend to in order to give his or her advice. It's importance of virtual CFO. What a virtual CFO brings to a company: provides strategic insight to enhance business. So like I told you in the first slide itself, it is no more just accounting and taxation. It's no more just finance and taxation. It is much more than that. So you will also take part in strategy formulation. So for example, your client is actually having 5 products and they want to discontinue one product. So whether they will even, as a virtual CFO, they will ask you whether what is your view, whether we have to discontinue that one product or not. So you have to analyze, should they discontinue, should they not discontinue, what is the loss because if they discontinue, what will happen. So all the analysis you have to do, and you will even be there in taking decision as all these kind of high level strategic decisions also, right? Next, ensures adequate control systems and processes. So proper control systems, not only in finance, but all throughout the organization, whether it is HR, whether it is purchases or manufacturing or stock taking, anything, everywhere he has to ensure that there is proper control systems and processes. And improvement of accounting process. Accounting is obviously the basic expertise that they expect from a virtual CFO, especially being a CA. So that is one more thing that you will have to bring to the table as a virtual CFO of your client. Your value maximization. So value maximization, there are 2 aspects in this. One, value maximization you have to ensure is what is the value that you are bringing to the company. Whether like once you are a virtual CFO, then you will report to the management telling, since I've been working CFO for 6 months in your company, and I've been able to increase profits by 1% or reduce the costs by 3%, right? So these kind of value maximization you have to give to your client. So compare that to what you are actually charging to your client. You have to make sure that you give value added services to your client. So that is one part of value maximization. The other value maximization is the value that the company is giving to its stakeholders, to its shareholders. Ever since the company has hired a virtual CFO, what value has it added to the company as a whole, and what value has it added to the shareholders or to the founders or to the venture capitalists? So that value maximization should also be there, and that will be created by a virtual CFO. And drive business growth. So being especially MSMEs and startups in the beginning stage, if they hire a virtual CFO, the virtual CFO will take care of a lot of the execution and the management part, right? Overall the organization. And the founders of the startup or the main partners or the directors of the startup can actually focus on business growth rather than compliance part or any management part. So business growth becomes very important to a startup in the starting, right? So they can actually focus on growing their businesses rather than getting dragged down by compliances. and financial expertise to help boost profit. So this is obvious. This accounting and finance part will definitely be expected from a virtual CFO, and that is another reason why a virtual CFO is required. Next, is there any mandate for qualification to become virtual CFO? So just like you have, like if, for example, audit, if you have to do an audit, you have to be a chartered accountant. Or if you have to do a cost audit, you have to be a CMA. So is like that, is there any qualification to become virtual CFO? As of now, no. There are no qualifications as of now. You may be a CA, you may not be a CA. If you have the right kind of experience, right kind of exposure, right kind of knowledge and experience over so many industries, then you can definitely become a virtual CFO irrespective of your qualification, right? So there is no legal provision for telling that a virtual CFO has to have so and so qualifications. Any person can become a virtual CFO. And now, what are the services provided by virtual CFO? Right? So, yeah. So I'm going to try asking a question again to the audience. I really request you all to participate a little this time. What do you think are the services that a virtual CFO provides? Apart from finance and accounts and taxation part, what all do you think are the services that a virtual CFO provides? We have seen quite a lot of examples, right? We have seen in the basics itself, I told you so many things that a virtual CFO provides. So apart from finance, apart from tax, apart from accounts, what does a virtual CFO provide to their client? Any answers? Okay. So we'll see the services. There are a lot of services that a virtual CFO provides. I have comprehensively included numerous kind of services. Almost all I've included, right? But what you have to remember is a virtual CFO may or may not provide all this gamut of services. Okay? Depending on the agreement with their client, they might handpick a few and provide the services. They might also provide all of these, but whatever I'm going to mention in my PPT is comprehensive. It has all the kind of services that a virtual CFO provides. So let's begin now. So now with this, you can also see the extent to which the virtual CFO becomes responsible for a particular company. First, from the high level, we'll start. Formulation of strategies. So planning long-term business plans. So like I mentioned earlier, a virtual CFO will be even called to board meetings to take various business plans for the entire business as a whole. For a long time, vision, mission, for everything, there will be a virtual CFO will be included. Next, they help board in decision-making process. And they may also help in business process reengineering. So this business process reengineering is a very, important service that a virtual CFO can provide. And not only as virtual CFO, if you see there, you can also provide this business process reengineering, BPR service, can provide it as a separate assignment itself. It may not be part of your virtual CFO also. So basically in business process reengineering, what you do? So what you do is you first of all see what all processes that the business is following. Here again, not only specified to F&A, but also everywhere else over the entire organization, right from purchase of inputs till sale and after sale services, everything provided. What is the process being followed by the company? What is the hierarchy of the company? If a particular expense has to be authorized, what is the process that is undertaken? You have to analyze each and every existing process, and you have to re-engineer that. That means from the beginning, from the scratch, you have to ignore whatever you have seen and bring about a new process for the client. Okay, this new process that you will bring will help in reducing costs for the company. So that is called business process reengineering. So it's basically overlooking everything that a company is being doing right now as a process in all the processes, and doing it and bring up new kind of processes from scratch. That is called business process reengineering. And operations. So now not only the high level planning and strategy formulation, but a virtual CFO will also be part of operations. So they have to oversee what all processes are there. They have to also formulate process as well as oversee whether it is being followed properly or not. And IT policies and controls, very, very important. Again, not focused only on finance controls everywhere. You have to make sure that there is proper hardware and software being utilized. There are proper comprehensive IT policies being, IT policies being followed in the organization. There is proper backup being done. There's business continuity plans. There is disaster management. All this has to be also taken care of by a virtual CFO. HR and legal also very interesting. So even HR part also a VCFO has to overlook. He or she has to see what is the leave policy and what is the authorities, leave authority or travel authorities. And in case of legal, how are the agreements being drawn? Or is there any SOP or process for agreements being drawn? If there is no SOP, he has to create an SOP and ensure that it is being followed while creating agreements with customers or with suppliers. Right? Next, finance. So obviously all of us know. I will not be going into much detail because we already know. So basically it's budgeting and forecasting, cash flow management, forex management, and handling financial accounting issues. So in case there is some extraordinary item, some special transaction that has happened, and they are not sure, the company is not sure as to what entry has to be passed, then they will ask the virtual CFO to provide their view as to what will be the journal entry that will be required for these kind of scenarios. So these kind of consultancy also will be part of that. So apart from this MIS reporting, and then you have to improve credit rating for the company, and then loan receiving loans, and interacting with the bank and other financial institutions. You have to take care of tax part also. So all the tax compliance also may or may not come as part of virtual CFO services, right? All this is included in the finance part. Then apart from that, general support, implementation of ERP. So what if the company is looking to employ an ERP in its organization, then they would also require a virtual CFO to help them in implementation of ERP. So now this assignment also, if you see, can be taken as a separate assignment. So that also happens a lot. So in case the company is pretty big and they want to implement a new ERP, completely new ERP, then they might actually ask the virtual CFO to help them in implementation. You can actually take that up as a separate assignment also, apart from virtual CFO. Right? And negotiating deals. If it's a very big client, if it's a very big customer for the company, crores of rupees is involved, then you will also be there in negotiating deals with such customers or with suppliers. And non-routine business decisions also will be taken care of. And specific transactions, mergers, acquisition, demerger, and restructuring. So sometimes what happens is a virtual CFO will be hired for the purpose of M&As alone, because there is some merger going on, and that's a very big merger involving a lot of time and money involved. Then they will have a virtual CFO to make sure that things are going smoothly. So the virtual CFO will be hired only for that particular period, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, till the time the merger actually happens. Till then, there will be a virtual CFO. Right? And IPO support. If the MSME has grown and they want to go for an IPO, or we have seen even startups going on IPO, right? So IPO support also needs to be done, and deal making, like we saw, and fundraising. Fundraising very important in case of startups, right? So when you go to when the startup goes to an angel investor or a venture capitalist, then they have to then as a virtual CFO, you have to make sure that in the presentation that they are giving to the investors, the proper forecasting is done, the proper numbers are there. So all that support will be given by a virtual CFO. And interaction with various stakeholders, whether internal or external. One type is banks and financial institutions to ensure the right amount of loan is actually acquired by the company. So getting loans that process is not easy. We all have experienced that. So we might not get the entire amount that has been promised. Right. So that negotiations has to be properly done with financial institutions and banks, so that a virtual CFO can take care of. And obviously, the one thing that we are all really familiar with is interaction with tax and revenue authorities. So that is where we are pros, and that is where that also will be involved in a virtual CFO service. And supplier interaction in case of critical agreements, and reporting to the board. So when you report to the board as a virtual CFO, you have to make sure that there is no particular report format that you have to follow. You can create your own report format similar to an internal audit where there is nothing specific legally, right? So that report you have to make sure that you put across everything, all the changes that you have brought about once you have been hired as a virtual CFO. So it may be reduction in cost, it may be reduction in turnaround time, or it may be restructuring of a finance team, restructuring of the purchase team. Whatever changes that you have brought out, you have to put that in the report along with the right kind of numbers. And you have to report to the board, right? So both internal and external party interactions will be taken care of by virtual CFO, right? So any doubts you have till now? So we have seen the basics of virtual CFO. We have seen why virtual CFO is needed, and then we have seen what all services that a virtual CFO provides. So like I told you, it's very comprehensive. Whatever all the services that are provided there is very big, very comprehensive. You may or may not provide this entire service to your client as virtual CFO. You can pick some and also provide the service. But any other doubts you can please ask now, or what all we have covered till now. Any doubts? So can they even unmute and ask their doubts? Yes, so I don't see any participant putting anything in the chat. I hope this event is actually useful to you, because as a part of the CA community, it's really an honor to actually present before all of you, especially in this kind of topic, which brings in a lot of opportunity for us to grow professionally. I think this is one time that you can ask me doubts. Definitely, I'll even be sharing my contact details. You can ask me later on, but I think this is a really good time for you to ask your doubts also, so that it will be beneficial not only to you, but to the other people also. Okay, so if there are no other doubts, I'll go ahead. So how is BCFO services different from outsourced accounting services? So now we have seen all the services that a virtual CFO provides. So what is the difference? So why why become a virtual CFO when you can actually do outsource accounting services? There should be some difference, right? We have seen what all differences are there. We'll see that. In outsource accounting services, what happens? Only the accounting function is outsourced. You're only merely passing entries and closing books of accounts. Nothing else you're doing for your client. So that is outsourced accounting services. But in VCFO services, what happens? Accounts and finance is only a portion of the services. We've seen almost 6 kind of services that they provide, right from strategy formulation till interaction and operations, executions, everything. And in that, finance was only one portion of it. So that is one major difference between VCFO and accounting, outsourced accounting services. And in VCFO, there is management of the F&A team rather than compliance and bookkeeping. So as a VCFO, you will not be completely into compliance. You'll not be completely into bookkeeping. You will be just a manager. It's kind of like a management of the F&A team. And you provide consultancy in case of accounting or AS issues. So that kind of consultancy may not be provided by even the outsourced accounting services, right? So this is where you can see that the scope of VCFO is huge. It's very, very large. And if presented properly to your prospective clients, you can easily get clients in this. You have to just, find out the right kind of clients for it. So you may have a lot of MSMEs and startups, right? You being in Delhi also, you may have a lot of startups or MSMEs as your clients. So those clients, currently you might be providing them outsourced accounting service, or you might be providing them internal audit services, right? So then now you can think that why not provide VCFO services for them, right? So you may have your friends doing MSMEs, friends starting startups. So you might even have them as your clients. You can act as a virtual CFO for them, right? So it all boils down to how you present the virtual CFO services to your prospective clients, right? So depending on the business that they are in, you can customize your agreement with them. You can customize the services that you provide to them so that it will be beneficial to both that company as well as you as a professional, right? And VCFO services, again, like already mentioned before, it includes other facets of management also, such as policy formation, strategy formation, and everything else, which is not there in outsourced accounting service. Next, ABC and Co. Chartered Accountants provides ITR and GST filing services to its client. So is this considered as virtual CFO services? So what does the CA do? He or she only provides return filing services in GST and income tax. So nothing else they provide. Is that considered virtual CFO services? No, definitely not. Because compliance services alone cannot be considered as virtual CFO services, right? Your compliance may or may not form part of your agreement. Returns filing may or may not form part of your agreement. So agreement in the sense your virtual CFO agreement. You might be a virtual CFO who provides also, filing of returns, but sometimes you may not also. Their internal team might be already filing returns and that is sufficient for them. So as a virtual CFO, you may not even provide the service. Okay? But just because you're providing return filing service doesn't mean that you are a virtual CFO. Next, virtual CFO is more than just compliance. Like we saw, it is management. So strategy formulation, IT policies, HR, everything, right? So it is more than just making sure returns are filed within 11th or making sure the IT returns are filed within time. It's more than just compliance. Next is the forms of providing virtual CFO services. Now we have decided that, okay, I want to be a virtual CFO. Then what are all the ways in which I can provide virtual CFO services? One is normal shared CFO services or virtual CFO services. So it includes business planning, head of account function, MIS, not limited to finance function. So whatever services that I have mentioned, right? So all those services, comprehensive services, if you're providing all of that or most of it, that will be part of this normal shared CFO services or virtual CFO services. That is one part. That is one way in which you can provide VCFO services. Another, interim CFO. So interim CFO is nothing but you're just filling in the gap, right? So in case the CFO of that company had to leave abroad for a few years, or because they are not able to be there because of the medical condition, then you will have to bridge the gap, and for that interim period, for maybe 1 year, for maybe 2 years, you will be a virtual CFO for them. That is called interim CFO. So only for that gap you will be the CFO. Next is contract CFO or special purpose CFO. That is for a specific project or a specific time period. So for example, hiring a virtual CFO for M&A while M&A is happening, or while liquidation is happening, that time also it might happen. So it's for a particular project. It is only for implementation of ERP and business process reengineering, only for a specific project. Even that can happen. So that is called virtual CFO or special purpose CFO. These kind of CFO can actually even help the full-time CFO which is being already been employed by the company. So that also is possible. So these are the basic 3 types of CFO services that can be provided to your clients. So here I would also like to tell that VCFO is very new, very nascent concept in India, but it is pretty much well known and being followed in UK, even Germany and even US. Right, there are a number of examples you can find for even special purpose and contract CFOs. So now we, before everyone starts doing it, we have to actually take this opportunity to start providing this new kind of services to the client. So you have to start educating your clients as to why they should actually have a virtual CFO in their company. So you have to present to them that if I am the virtual CFO, then I can bring about these changes to your organization. Right? So you have to be so convincing that they are not only educated about virtual CFO, but they are also convinced enough to look for a chartered accountant to be a virtual CFO for them. Right? And these are 3 ways you can provide. And you can, depending on the client, you can yourself decide as to what kind of service I want, what kind of VCFO I want to be. Do I want to be a contract CFO, or do I want to be a normal virtual CFO? Right? So next, how long does a VCFO work with a client? It depends on the agreement with the client. So like already we saw previously, interim CFO is possible and contract or special purpose CFO is possible. So if you're only being hired as a VCFO for for the M&A purpose, then you will stay only till the M&A is over. That might take 6 months, that might take 1 year, that might take 1.5 years. Whatever it is, depending on the project, you will stay with the client. And if you're a normal VCFO for a MSME, then you might be a VCFO for 3 years, for 4 years, till that MSME or till that startup grows and actually is in need of a full-time CFO with them. Till then, you can be a virtual CFO. Right? So it can be for a specific time or can be for a specific project. So till the time a virtual full-time CFO is employed, then till then a virtual CFO will be working with the client. So it may also happen that they needn't have a virtual CFO and might be for a long term also, but again it depends. And one more interesting thing is why CAs are the best fit as virtual CFO in India. So one main reason is the depth in understanding the business. So first thing that we learn, in our CA Inter also, when we do auditing, for example, is first thing that you have to know is understand the business of the client. So you have to know everything about the client. What all products are there? What all services are there? What are the not only finance aspects, but also what is a process being followed? What is we even go and do factory visits, right? So we do that. Why we do it? Because we want a deep understanding of the business that the company is in. So because we have that mindset, so we are a best fit as virtual CFO. And financial foresight and advisory. So not only compliance we do, but we also have the foresight, and we can actually be as consultants rather than just being people who file returns for them, or just not just doing compliance for them. It can be more than just that. We can be consultants to them. So expertise in finance and accounts definitely is the precondition for any virtual CFO. And experience in diverse fields. So right from articleship, we are exposed to different kind of industries. We may be doing only internal audit, maybe, or we may be doing only GST also, or we may be only doing tax. But we have clients of different industries. In manufacturing itself, there will be 5-6 varieties. We'll have an IT company as a client, as our client. We have a trader company as a client. We have someone who's doing import and export, who are an SEZ, who are an EOU, right? So many different kinds of industry experience we are having. We will know that the problems that are being faced by each and every industry. So what is being faced by IT, the problems faced by IT industry is completely different from manufacturing, right? So more than just financial expertise, we have industrial expertise. And that becomes one more skill that actually a CA needs. What is it? It is industrial experience more than financial experience. Financial experience will happen anyway. That we are being brought up by that. But industrial experience is something which you get only with the right kind of exposure. And that becomes very, very important for a virtual CFO. Because again, virtual CFO is more than just finance. You have to know not only that company, you have to know the industry in which the company is in, and adapt with changing laws and regulations. So all of us, we at least spend an hour daily going through what all new notifications are there, what all new circulars has come. So many new kind of case laws and all will come out, and we will keep ourselves updated with all the new changes in law. So that is one more reason why a CA is a very good virtual CFO. And next, we've seen why a CA is good, and then now we have to see what all skills that is being required for being a virtual CFO. One is proactive decision making. Very, very important. Why? Because we saw that answer to the difference between virtual CFO and internal audit, right? So a virtual CFO will not only find out the flaws in the company, but will also come out with solutions as to how to manage that or how to fix that particular problem. So a VCFO will look for loopholes and will also proactively take the decision before everything goes south, before everything goes down. He or she takes a decision to fix that particular loophole. So proactive decision making, very, very important skill for a virtual CFO. And result oriented. Here, while, for example, when you're going to report to the management that you're sending a report to them about all the services that you've been providing for last 3 months or last 6 months. So you have to make sure that the proper matrices and proper numbers are there. For example, this was your profit for the last quarter, and this is the profit for this quarter when after I have been hired as BCF. So you have seen that the profit has increased by so and so percentage, and I have brought down indirect costs by so and so percentage. Right? So result oriented is very important. So as a VCFO, you will not only focus on changing the structure of the organization wherever needed, not only the governance part, but also make sure that the ROI is not missed out. The result should be there in numbers. The change that you have brought after being a virtual CFO. And communication people skills, very, very important. So we've been good at communication skills with maybe tax authorities and revenue authorities, right? Or with even the banks. But now we have to have communication skills with other kind of people also. They may not be even CAs, they may not be even in the commerce background. You might be able to, you should be able to interact with the engineers who are actually the founders of the startups, right? Their mindset will be different, but we have to make sure that the proper communication skills are there in order to communicate with all kind of people, not only CAs. And networking skills across experts in the industry. So same, the similar to the example that I told you, not only interaction with the experts in the CA community, but interaction with experts in the management community maybe, or experts in the digitization, technology, fintech world. So many changes are happening in the fintech world. So many people are coming in and going out, right? So you have to have the networking skills with not only chartered accountants, but with all kinds of people. And continuous knowledge updation, very important. Every day we have to make sure we know what is going on in the fintech world, what is going on in the technology world, what is going on in the law world also, and tech savvy. So as mentioned earlier, I will keep mentioning this tech part a lot, because a virtual CFO is considered to be a very tech savvy person. So much so that the client will actually expect you to bring new kind of technology to their company. Like for example, a virtual CFO might actually suggest to their client that, see boss, the ERP that you are using is not sufficient for your company. It is not actually compatible to your company. Instead, you use this kind of ERP. You use this ERP, right? So this kind of new technology, a virtual CFO expected to bring to the client. So that is why a virtual CFO will be required to have, a knowledge of various kinds of ERPs, various kinds of technologies that have been come, not only on the finance side, but everywhere else. So next question. The word, it says virtual CFO, right? It says virtual. So does that mean VCFO services are completely online? Yes or no? So is virtual CFO services always provided online only or not? So the answer is no, it needn't be. So although VCFO services is primarily focused on providing online services or providing services virtually, it depends on the agreement with the client. So basically there are three types of ways, three types of engagement types, three types of engagement methods that you can have while providing VCFO services. You have to come up with the type of engagement while you're entering into the contract agreement with your client. So what are those three types of engagement? Let's see. One is on-site. On-site is basically providing your service from the client's place. So kind of like a stat audit or internal audit, where one or two people from your team will go to the client's place, will be in the client's place for 10 days, 15 days, or 20 days, depending, and they provide the service from the client place itself. So in that case, that is called on-site services. So this especially will be very helpful at the beginning of the assignment, because that's when you can understand the company much better. So in the starting, you might have 2-3 people from your team, from your VCFO team, be there in the client place so that they can take interviews and they can observe what all processes are going on in the company. They can interact with the right kind of people so that they can provide the proper services. They can understand the company well and provide the services once they are in on-site, especially during the starting of the assignment. And offsite is completely providing the services from CA's office only. And hybrid. Hybrid is a mix of on-site and off-site. So again, there are two ways in this. You can make it like, I will provide off-site services, but weekly once I will be there in the client place, or once in 15 days I will be there in the client's place. That is one way that you can do hybrid. The other way you can do hybrid is where for example, you have 5 members in your VCFO team. In that, you decide that there will be 2 of them who will always be in the client's place, and 3 of them will be working from your own office. So half of them on site and half of them off site. So that is also another way that you can provide this hybrid kind of agreement, hybrid kind of engagement in virtual CFO. But important to note here that before even you start providing these virtual CFO services, you ensure that the type of engagement is properly recorded in your agreement. So in the agreement itself, it should be there that we will be following hybrid engagement type, or we'll be doing offsite, or we'll be doing on-site, or it will be a mix of both, right? Or telling that we will report once a month. So everything should be properly recorded in the agreement before you go ahead with the assignment. And next, how is reporting to be done to the client? The VCFO reports to the management of the company. Okay? So very important, no reporting to shareholders and everything. It reports to the management of the company, because the management of the company is the one which has hired the virtual CFO. And frequency of reporting to be predetermined in the agreement. So just like I told you for the engagement type, where the engagement type you have to ensure that it is already recorded in the agreement before itself. Frequency of reporting also should be recorded. So reporting here means creating the report, just like an internal audit report may be, the report that you give to the management. It may be once a month, it may be once in 3 months, once in 6 months, depending on the agreement. And necessary matrices to be included in the report. So very important, a VCFO should be result oriented, right? So necessary matrices, it means nothing but the proper numbers. Like I told you, an example of the percentage profit that has been increased, right? You compare it to the benchmark, you compare it to the standards that has been created, and you put that in the report. So those numbers, those matrices should be there in the report that you give to the management in comparison with benchmark, like I told you. And outcomes and results should be in numbers. Some things may or may not be in numbers. VCFO will provide both quantitative as well as qualitative services. Whatever can be measured, that has to be put in the report accordingly. And no specified format for report, like I told you earlier. So you can create your own format of report, and you can keep changing them also as you wish. And now, very important part, how you can transform your current service, current practice to a virtual CFO. How you can change yourself to a virtual CFO now. Because now is actually the correct time that you can start. It is a very new kind of service. Many people may not even know about it, but as chartered accountants, it is our responsibility to educate our clients as to the new kind of services that you can provide, and that will be helpful to the company and helpful to you as a professional also. First, there are a few things that you have to consider before you start transforming your practice. One thing is changing in mindset. That has to change a lot. You have to start adopting a new kind of technologies, and you have to stop thinking like an auditor and start thinking like a CFO. You have to start thinking like a consultant. So, and we have to stop thinking like CS just being compliance people. No, it's more than just that. It's more than just compliance. It is, management. It is more consultancy. So remember that VCFO services is different from outsourced compliance services. Next, main focus on the credit side of the balance sheet. How, as a CFO, you should concentrate on how you can increase the revenue, how you can increase the profit. What are all the policies that I can bring that will increase profit? What are all the strategy that can be brought about? The entire business, how the business plan should be changed so that there is growth in profits, right? So these kind of things will be the focus for a VCFO, the credit side of the balance sheet. Industrial experience. more important than financial expertise. I told you earlier itself. So very, very important. Team building gains a lot of importance. Here, team building is not only your own team in your office, in your firm, but the team of that company also. So you might be continuously in interaction with the finance team of your client, who your virtual CFO of, right? So you have to do the proper team building in that company also, and also ensure that there's proper team building in your own firm, in your own employees and articles. And ROI becomes main metric for value addition rather than governance. So like I told you, result oriented, very important. And now some of the ways in which you can transform is you can start parallel consulting firms or companies that you can create. Everything just, everything based on ICI guidelines, everything within ICI guidelines, wherever you're able to create parallel firms, parallel companies, specifically for VCFO services, you can create it. You can either create a separate company or separate firm, or you can create a separate division in your current firm, telling that that team will always work for VCFO services only. You have 10 people there who will be the VCFO team for 3-4 clients. So you can have a dedicated team for that. Or you can hire the seniors and the senior CFOs who have actually retired from the industry. You can hire them in your company. Again, hiring them, this is a very attractive option, and very this will give a lot of growth to a virtual CFO firm. But it's also very, very challenging to bring such a senior person to your firm. So you may not be able to provide so much of a monetary remuneration to that person, but you have to present it in such a way that they are extremely satisfied with they're extremely excited about the work that they will be doing as virtual CFO. If you're able to attract them in that way, that becomes a major success for you as a professional. So again, here also that CFO may or may not even be a CA, right? So they may not even be an MBA also, but they are very successful CFOs, and you want them in your firm so that you can start a separate division for VCFO. That also you can do. But networking with those kind of people again becomes very important. So how you can do that? You can do that through continuous digital presence. Again, within ICI guidelines, make sure that you're always within the ICI guidelines while doing while presenting yourselves on social media and digital media, right? So one way you can do that is branding through original content. Very, very, very critical these days. So let me give you an example. So there is a new circular that was issued in GST, right? Day before, about various rates, clarification, various rates and exemptions and all that. So what I do is I copy the entire circular, and then I paste it in my LinkedIn profile, and then I put my logo on it, and then I do it. So is that original content? No, it is not original content. Your original content will happen when the same circular, you read it, you analyze it, you summarize it in your own words, you give your own opinion on that, you analyze it through your own angle. You can give some examples of what you have already seen in some of your clients, right? You can write an article based on that and publish it with your brand name. So that becomes branding with original content. That will make you different than other people, right? So once you get your brand on, for example, LinkedIn, you become very successful. Once you create your own brand with the original content that only you can do as a professional, as an individual, then you can even get clients from LinkedIn. It has already happened before, that we have seen virtual CFOs actually getting overseas clients through LinkedIn because they have been educating people about virtual CFO. They have been educating people about various tax laws and various finance aspects, right? So educating again becomes part of your branding that you create for yourself, and that will help you gain a lot of not only social media presence, but also it might ultimately help in getting new clients. And the clients will also trust you because you are very branded. You have branded yourself on social media. And standardizing use of technology through the firm. So technology is always an opportunity and a challenge. So especially to chartered accountants these days, it is a challenge, but it is a huge opportunity. The starting, it will be difficult for us to change uh, and bring new technology to the company, to your own firm. So the starting, even Zoom calls were very big, very difficult for us, right? It was such a challenge. We all were used to seminars and attending physical events, but that has changed. That was a challenge to us, but that was also an opportunity, right? So it's an opportunity for me that I'm able to interact with people from a different part of the country. I'm in a different part of the country. So that has been made possible only through technology, right? So you can actually bring technology like practice. There are so many practice management solutions. You can take one of them and then you can easily manage all the work that is going on. You can easily have communication between your articles and your employees, who some of them might be working from home, some of them might be in client place, some of them might be in office, right? To ensure that there is no communication gap and the work is happening properly, you can slowly start using practice management softwares, right? So like this, you can once you start using technology, it brings a lot of opportunities for you. And virtual CFO is the biggest opportunity that technology has provided to us in India as of now. And experience in various ERPs. So we might be experienced in 3-4 ERPs, but we have to also keep on looking out for new kind of ERPs that are coming in the market. So we might be well aware about Tally ERP or Oracle or even QuickBooks, but there are much more than that, right? There is Oracle, there is there are so many new things that are coming up, right? There is Ramco ERP, so many kinds, right? You have to have an exposure. You might not know that in depth also, but you should know that these kind of ERPs are there. What is special about each ERP? So why will this help is when you have your client, you will know that what kind of ERP will actually be helpful to your client. So you can actually even suggest them that please use this ERP instead of what you're currently using, because that will be more efficient for you as a company. And then what are some ways in which VCFO can maximize profitability for a company? So you have seen so many things we saw, so many services we saw. Then what are the ways that a VCFO can increase profit? Is there might be many ways, but what I've given here, 4-5 points, are just illustrations. There are just few ways that can be done. So one thing is creating benchmarks and standards, creating metrics and standards. So first, if there are no benchmarks created in that particular MSME or that particular startup that you're doing, you have to see who are the competitors. Is there any industrial benchmark? If there is, then you have to make that as a standard, and you have to start operating like that. You have to start creating policies based on those benchmarks. And you can identify major opportunities for savings and investment, and identify areas that need improvement and execution for improvement. You can even have a HR specialized team in VCFO services. In case your client does not have a HR team, but they are in need of one, then in your own VCFO team, you can have 2 people who are actually doing only the HR related things for them. So that way also is one way you can improve the efficiency in a company. And you can optimize working capital. Obviously, the finance related stuff will always be there, right? So there are a couple of this 2 case studies, and we can wrap up this session. So I'll just go through these case studies in brief. So basically, Okay, let's just start with it. So SAL Group is engaged in running a supermarket chain and has stores in multiple states and has over 500 employees. So what SAL Group has asked you as a CA, as a virtual CFO, is you have to improve their procurement processes and internal controls. You have to do their budgeting and forecasting. You have to prepare monthly variance reports. They want you to do cost optimization and analyzing new project feasibility. So this is what SCL Group mainly wants you to do as a virtual CFO, right? So this is there in your agreement. So now what you do as a virtual CFO, you analyze existing processes, you evaluate gaps and opportunities for improvement, right? Then find out areas for cost reduction, because cost optimization they want. This cost reduction might be anywhere in the company. It might be restructuring of the HR team. It might be restructuring of F&A team, or it might be changing processes in procurement. That might also lead to cost reduction. And they want you. They also write technology for MIS reporting. So this will help in budgeting and forecasting and taking proper decisions according to it. And establishing periodical review mechanism. You can do all this for whatever requirements the client has asked. And what is the result that you have given? So like I told you, VCFO should be result oriented. So what can they do? What has a VCFO done at the end is optimization of, this is just an example I've given. So this is basically how the flow happens if you're actually executing a VCFO assignment. So the impact that you delivered is optimization of processes in procurement and stores, reduction in lead time and cost by 7%. So here, result oriented, number oriented, you will actually, you should actually have the workings for all of this, telling that I have, because of the new process that I have installed in the procurement process, I've been able to reduce the cost by 7%. Second, faster decision making due to variance analysis reports, so that you can give instances about that. And feasibility report for informed decision making regarding new project. So one requirement that they asked for is analyzing new project feasibility, right? So you can give a feasibility report telling that, okay, this based on so and so factors, based on the cost involved, based on the ROI that is expected, based on the market rates or market that is being expected. Based on these, this particular project is feasible. Based on these, it's not feasible. Like this, you can give your feasibility report. And multiple areas identified for cost reduction. So the cost reduction may not have happened in these 3 months or 6 months since you have been hired as VCFO, but you can also mention in the report that these areas we have found out for cost reduction and we'll be working on that. One more example. One example we saw is a supermarket chain. One more example is a manufacturer. So they want you to create SOPs for all functions. They don't have any SOPs left for all functions, right? And working capital management they want you to do. ERP optimization. They may or may not have an ERP. They may have an ERP and that is not actually helpful for them. So they want you to optimize it. Then they want you to review roles and responsibilities of the F&A team. So what you do as a virtual CFO is understand roles of all functions and creation of framework. Right? They want you to create SOPs, right? So for that you have to understand all the roles. Then you have to analyze areas of improvement. What all improvements can be made? Automation of finance process through ERP. Right? Again, one more example of how a virtual CFO has to suggest for technology, suggest for new ERPs. The virtual CFO might suggest for an in-house ERP, or might even tell that, okay, there's a ERP product itself. Maybe even SAP is enough for you, or maybe QuickBooks is sufficient for you. So that also, they, according to the structure of the client, you can suggest it. And evaluating structure of finance team and reorganization. Maybe reorganizations in the sense you can change the roles of the existing people to ensure that they are working to the best. They are working to their skills. And what is the result? That saving of 1 crore rupee in working capital in 4 months, and 30% decrease in turnaround time for F&A team. For example, for giving the MIS report for a month, it used to take 3 hours, but now it is taking only 2 hours. So I've been able to reduce the turnaround time in the F&A team because of restructuring. Then implementing best practices in ERP, like I told you, and improved decision making due to periodical reporting. So because you have the right kind of ERP for the client, they are able to do the proper, they are able to take the proper decisions at the right time based on the ERP reporting or the MIS reportings that are being done. Okay, so these are two basic case studies. This is just for an illustration to understand the entire framework of that. So with this, I've come to the end of my deliberation. I hope it was useful. I hope it was very interesting. And also, it's interesting on paper, but it'll also be very interesting practically when we actually start providing VCFO services. So there are there may not be a lot of firms who are actually providing VCFO services, but definitely quite a lot also there, especially in Delhi, Mumbai. There are a lot of quite a lot of people CS providing VCFO services. If you want to start your career in VCFO, I've already mentioned 3-4 ways that you can do. But apart from that, you can also work for such CFO firms which actually do VCFO services. For the last 3-4 months itself, I've seen so many new people actually telling that they have started VCFO services. There are many firms who have actually started. So you can even join them, work with them for a couple of years, and then you can come out and start your own VCFO firm, or you might even continue with them. So these ways you can actually start providing this VCFO services, which will be helpful to you as a professional also, and to the entire economy, because most of them are MSMEs and startups these days, right? So any doubts you have for the entire thing regarding virtual CFO?
I request the participants, if you have any doubt or any question, now the session is being open for question answer. Participants, if you have any doubt, the speaker is available for answering your queries.
Any doubts, anything you've seen practically also, you might ask me.
Ma'am, we would like to thank you very much for your wonderful presentation on this subject, virtual CFO.
Thank you.
And
I hope it was helpful actually. I will also be sharing the PPT for sure. So it'll also help the audience and the participants who have come today.
kindly share the PPT also. I would like to take your permission, because we have maintained a YouTube channel of the study circle, and we generally upload the recordings of the seminars on YouTube channel, so that the members who have missed the bus may be benefited if they are in the future.
Yeah, sure. I will be sharing this just after the event, and also share my contact details in case you want to contact me later on. You can also connect with me over LinkedIn also. So.
Okay. Kindly share your this presentation to Mr. R.K. Gupta or to my WhatsApp, so that we may.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be giving it immediately after the CM.
Actually, we are left with some 10-15 minutes time. If you think anything more in the field of GST or some important thing which you want to share with the members, then we can do it. Anything general member?
Sorry, your voice is breaking, sir.
Actually, we are left with 10-15 minutes. If you think anything else, as you are expert in GST,
right,
anything else should be shared with the member at this juncture, we can discuss with 10 minutes more.
Okay. I think specifically lately, I think there was this circular only which has gotten released right day before. So it's basically about the GST rates and the exemptions. For example, one example is the loading charges, whether it's included in the toll charges or not. So there are some changes that has been, some clarifications which the CBIC has given with respect to that. And what else? Maybe I'll just go through it. Or if there is any doubts with respect to GST also, I can, as far as possible, I can clarify that right now.
We can take another session on GST when the time will permit.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, may I know what is this Optotex?
Yeah. So Optotex, it's basically a GST platform. You can file your returns, download various kind of reports. You can download like entire two-way report for an entire year in just 2-3 minutes. You can download it. So that's a very helpful tool which has actually helped a lot of professionals. So it is specifically designed for tax professionals, CAs and other tax professionals, and it is free of cost for CAs and tax professionals to use. And till now, we have been receiving a lot of positive feedback about the product. So I hope it will be helpful. So also apart from that, we conduct a lot of webinars, knowledge sharing webinars for chartered accountants also in our platform. So recently we even had a webinar with Ankit Goel ji, C. Ankit Goel, on valuation. Valuation in case of issue of shares. All the rule 11 AU, UA, and all that. Okay. So that has also received a lot of good response. So that basically it's a GST and a knowledge sharing platform that we've created.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bhardwaj,
please.
may I ask that is,
please.
ma'am, actually I have a query that we are maintaining data for clients like Excel sheets, the PDF and the Tally and the other tax ways. So I have a query that suppose one aspect that we are maintaining data on the cloud, then we have no issue related to backups because the backup is maintained by the company which is providing us the cloud services. But suppose a small firm is maintaining data on their manual server, they are making one computer as a server, and there are 4 or 5 LAN computers. So there is one concern that arises that how we should take the backup. Suppose today is the 8th of October, we close the day, and there is some changes to the files or the Excel files or the PDF files, and we want to take the backup of that particular the activities for that particular day. So one aspect is that we have to take the backup of the particular folders. That is very cumbersome and that is not giving good results. So what do you advise actually that how we should take the smart backup, which actually updates the changes done in a particular day? Only those changes are updated into the particular folders.
Okay.
Query, am I clear to you?
Yeah. So it's basically like you want to back up all the additions that were made.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are actually softwares. The names are not actually coming to my mind right now. You can even contact me later on. But there are backup methods, backup platforms where these kind of additional backups undertake. So you can actually mention the like if you want to do it on a daily basis or you want to do it on a weekly basis, you can do that also. So I have actually read about it, but I'll actually you can actually contact me. I'll let you know the platforms which are available for that. So currently I'm not able to remember any, but that is one method that you can do the additional backing up. Those manual will be very difficult.
A manual is very difficult and not workable actually. One query is related to GST actually. Suppose I mean nowadays in Delhi NCR, I'm from Delhi. People are basically, they are buying a piece of land, say 200 square yard, 300 square yard, and they start basically construction on that piece of land, and they makes actually 4 or 5 flats on that piece of land actually. So how we should I mean manage their GST issues basically, because they are not taking bookings at a time when the construction actually starts. They basically sell the flats when the construction is basically completed, or we can say the OC when the flat is basically ready to move.
Okay, so they're doing the construction on their own, or is this a JDA?
I mean, they are doing it their own. Basically, they are I mean giving the contract of only labor. They are giving the material to the labor contractor. Suppose there is a
Only
labor contractor, Mr. A. He is basically giving labor, but material, the cement, steel, and sand, everything they are managing at their own. And suppose there is, I mean, the cost of land is say 1 crore rupees, and the construction cost is around say 70-80 lakh. And now after that they sell all the flats. I mean, the aggregate value definitely exceeds 20 lakh. So how we should manage the GST?
So if they have sold after the construction is done, then there will be no GST on that. So that is pretty clear. So like once the completion certificate is given by the engineer, the chartered engineer, then there will be no GST on those flats. Okay. So GST will come on those rates, I think 0.75%. That all depends. There are various rates actually. So if it's affordable house, then it is 0.75%. Else it is, yeah, there are many rates actually depending on what kind of flat. I mean, what kind of property it is, and but that for that case also GST is applicable only if they have sold it while the construction is happening. Like, right, if the construction is done and the completion certificate is given, then no GST at all on sale of such flats.
थैंक यू भारद्वाज जी, आप कुछ इस पे बताएंगे थोड़ा सा प्रैक्टिकली, आप कैसे, अगर आपके पास कोई क्लाइंट हो, लाइक आप कैसे डील करते हो ऐसे केसेस में? लाइक वो मतलब ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड तो कहते हैं कि भाई आप पैसे ही मत लो, बुकिंग के पैसे मत लो, लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली बुकिंग होती है इनमें भी। लेकिन जैसे कई लोग कह रहे हैं कि भाई बुकिंग का पैसा मत लो, दिखाओ मत, वो जब कंप्लीट हो जाए तभी, अदरवाइज जीएसटी आ जाएगा। और वो जो इनपुट की जो कॉस्ट है मटेरियल पे जो जीएसटी की, वो थोड़ी सी काफी हैवी होती है। आप कुछ लाइट डालेंगे?
Input is also restricted now, kuch, it's that again depends on the rates that is applicable to that case, right? So as far as I've seen, matlab, if it's under construction ka, then they will have to raise, I mean, GST jo bhi applicable hai, and along with ITC, see, so many conditions have come if you have to apply for that short, lower rate of GST, right? So किसी में ITC नहीं मिलेगी आप अगर lower rate में हो, and some cases you have to actually pay the tax in cash only and not in ITC. So मतलब वो depend करता है कि वो client कैसा है. So again, if
you don't have anything to discuss, then should I formally end the seminar? Any more questions from the members, please? I think there is no more questions from the members. Now, it is time to end the seminar. I'm highly thankful to the speaker for discussing such a new and important topic in such a detailed manner. I recognize the presence of our senior member S.C. Khanna ji and Arun Malik ji in the seminar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for attending this program and making it a great success. We are inspired by the presence of Mr. Khanna. He is the most senior member of our study circle and usually attends almost all the programs. Khanna sahab, Ram Ram. Khanna ji.